this is going to be, theoretically, relatively short. The trick with what I'm going to show you, is...
It's a trick! I knew it was a trick!
About 5% of it is going to be me showing it to you and you understanding it. Another 95% is you got to practice. Ron has showed me some of the nuances he picked up more recently about it 2 months ago.
Let's stay here. I can hear all of it.
I'm still working on it. But it took him 5 minutes to tell me what it was. Oh yeah, that's what it is, and we've already been doing it. This helps us refine it. Still trying to refine it. So lots of work. So that's what that's what we're looking at is some of you have had my class on movement before. This builds on this. This has to do with movement, pressure, range. These are tools to use to control your opponent. We talked about before the pie. Everybody, for those who aren't familiar with it, basically you have two lines coming out of your feet, and then you have your maximum range of your weapon. That pie is that shapes. You have one and your opponent has one. What all this comes down to is how do you get your opponent in your pie and stay out of his, or make him unable to use it. Okay, that's what this comes down to. This gets into the nuances of it. The basis of it is fairly simple. If I stand in my stance and I reach my sword out, that's the range, that's the outside of my pie, and there are my two angles. See my pie? It's fairly simple. There it is. If you don't get in that, it becomes very difficult for me to hit you. Okay? Well, here's the trick. If I am facing someone and they get in my pie, but they say threaten my elbow, and I drop my hand, they've done something to make me unable to use my pie at that moment. Okay? The pie can move quickly. So if I'm in a position to move my pie, I can shift it. Now, that same arc that was here is now here. It's almost completely out of that one. So my opponent moves 6 feet, and I can move a few inches. Okay? These are fairly easy with some practice on a larger scale. The trick is when this gets smaller, because that piece of pie is not a fixed thing. It's like a piece of pie, it's mushy. It can get bigger and it can get smaller. I can change it by shifting where my feet are. If this foot gets back, I get stronger, but this back foot dictates my range. So this becomes my maximum. If I bring this up, I can get a few more inches out of it. If I shift my feet, I can get farther out. And here's the thing, the point of my pie never changed. Alright? So these are things to watch for. Where's this person's pie? Okay? You can use these. When you think about these, think about how you would use them. Think about how your opponent is using them, whether they know it or not. Okay? Bronis used to do one where he'd roll his sword as he'd move around, kind of rock his sword. Everybody, I swear to God, it was like snake charming. They'd all watch it, and then he'd get hit, and they would think, they always talked about how Bronis, he would teleport in on you. Obviously, he's not teleporting. What he was doing, though, was he would take his stance. Here's the corner of the point of his pie, and as he's moving around looking for an angle, he's scooting his feet forward. So now his pie is now on top of you. You were watching this. You were feeling this. You never felt him get closer. Then he did what he normally does. Leans forward, pushes the shot, and hits you and go, oh my God, he teleported in. No, he came in 20 seconds ago. You just didn't pay attention. Okay? Something we've just been working on the last few times is how you use your shield to change that. When an opponent stands and when you stand, you're telling your opponent, this is where I'm at. My shield is this far from my body. So when the shield gets closer to them and they want to change, they being you or your opponent, use that shield as the feel for pressure. Oh, that kind of gets you the feeling for what the right range is. It means nothing. This and where this sword hip sits is everything. Okay? What we've been working on is when he first started working with our A-frame, he fought very far out. The shield and sword were out. Well, what's nice is this pushes everybody away. The problem is those of us who know realize that, so we actually just tuck up a little closer to the shield. What he's learning lately is because he can now fight here, and he can still do this, he can actually change the range. When he's threatened, he can slide this way, which gives the impression that he's still close. So his opponent doesn't want to close. He buys himself time without actually disengaging his opponent. Or he can do the opposite. As he moves around, he can slide them forward and then slide into them. Okay? The pie sliding, but the person's feeling the same. Okay? So feeling is very important, but be aware of what you're feeling, whether or not it's actually real. Okay? It doesn't mean you have to watch their feet, because a number of other things will change. How high they are. The human body can travel a great distance, but the taller it is at the beginning, the less distance it can travel. So good fighters will sit low. When I fight most people, they sit about here. When I fight bronze, they sit about here. Because I need to move much farther and much quicker. So I need to as low as I can so I can move better. An opponent you're fighting, if they get up high, they can't come near you without making some shift. Usually they fall or they drop forward. There's your tell. And again, ask yourself, what happens when I go? Do I drop? Well, if you drop, it's because that's where you should be. So before you fight someone, drop. Now all you do is you travel forward. Okay? Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So watch these things with the feet and the shifting. The other is, this is three-dimensional. Kind of look at an opponent, see them from the front, see some angles. But just for practice, I'll do it in a couple different directions and you'll see. But if I face forward here, most people would say they don't see much open on me. But if I turn just a couple degrees, all kinds of things open up, no matter which way I shift. Just 2 degrees, things start to open up down the sides. Okay? Think three-dimensionally with your opponent. Again, this works both ways. The attack is coming from the weapon, and though it should be fairly centered, it's still on a side. So, which most of us realize is this side is going to be closer than that side is. So this pie that we talked about, it's not actually in the center, it's actually over by your weapon side hip. Okay? Now we're getting more picky about our pie, because this is where the difference is. This is where you can like Grace and I, when we at that level, there are times where we hit each other and we both know it's not good. Why? Because something was off. Not this, or this. It was off this, and this. That's all it takes. It's not quite right. Okay? That's what this fight is getting into. So now you're thinking smaller. The other way is shifting this pie without moving your feet. Okay? We understand the pie, we understand its range, we understand we can push it, we understand we can stick, and we can make it bigger just by dropping. We know one side, our sword side, is actually deeper than our shield side. Okay? Now, you got another layer, left and right. Okay? I'm not moving my feet at all. I'm not turning my pie, not moving my stance. I am not tilting. Okay? What tilting does, if I tilt, it gives me a much stronger shot here. But this side of my pie just disappeared. Essentially, I tilted the pan and my pie all gooshed down to this side. Okay? I got lots of good firepower here, but nothing up here. That doesn't help me because now this person doesn't have to dedicate anything to this side of the house. If I slide, I have that power still, so nothing stops me from firing the other side. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Now, start to think about how all these things work together. Okay? You stand, think about your pie, And for now, we'll just think about your own pie. If you move it on somebody, you can step off theirs and keep it on. You can put them on it. They're a little bit away. You can sink down and get greater range on them. You can sink back, give the impression that they're outside of it, when in reality, they're actually inside of it. You can settle down and shift. I will sometimes do it ahead of time. I will sometimes, like with my left hand, people are very concerned, of course, about getting hit on this side because I'm left-handed. So I will sometimes step up and I'll take my stance a little off their line to my right. And as I settle, I'll settle over. So they feel this pressure in this, on that side, but in reality, I could lean over here, which makes me very deep on their shield side. This sudden motion turns them. I can come back again. So now I can take my pie, put it back and forth. They can ignore this, but they better not, because I'll still fire to the side. Okay. One more layer. Up and down. Okay. Up and down is important in how you do it, because it's not a matter of just tilting like a tank cannon. You don't tilt up and down. The tilt is in your body. Your best shot's going to be 90 degrees off your body. So when I tend to fight, when I sit, I'm here. I'm facing my opponent. I can fire straight forward and get my headshot. It's easy to drop for leg shot. I do not tilt for leg shot, because all it does is stick my head out and get hit in the back. But if I drop, I stay protected and I still have my shot. Okay? That's dropping. Going higher changes. When I tell a lot of people, keep picking on Ragnvaldr because he's taller. Normally I stand here, so I can face my opponent, average height. When I fight Ragnvaldr, I feel the weight on my feet when I'm in a good stance. I shift my hips forward, my shoulders back, and I sit a little bit. So now I'm at 90 degrees, point up at his shoulders. Okay? What this allows me to do is never sacrifice my stance. I don't do anything different. Okay? I just tilt my pie up, point up. If I fight normally against Ragnvaldr, what I get is I can fire arms, hips, and legs nice, but his shoulders and head have to be thrown this way. And this is awkward. And God forbid I'm down here, because the head is actually this big. And this, I don't care who's throwing this. But since this is a good shot, if I can tilt under, now I can fire straight and I can put it right into his head. Now that doesn't necessarily mean to do that, but there's the pressure. Okay? Is everybody with me so far? Okay? Think about the commonalities here. What you have is you still have your pie, but now the pie is not a fixed thing anymore. You have a way to narrow it, widen it, lengthen it, shorten it, shift it, tilt it. And the tilting is the thing you don't want to do. Okay? Does that all make sense to everyone so far? The second part of this is the pressure and the tension. That's using this on your opponent. Okay? With that is what your opponent feels. This goes back to what we were talking about before. And remember, again, it goes both ways. So when you hear me talking about this, think about how you can use it, but think about how your opponents use it on you. What is it? What are you feeling? What is the actual reality? Often they're the same. A lot of times they're not. Okay? Tension you'll get a couple ways. One is actual tension. Okay? If I put that I'm here I come feeling. The other is nothing more than pointing at an open area. And that's done by moving the pie. So now I can threaten my opponent's, he's right-handed too, I can threaten his arm like this, which really kind of threatens, but does nothing more than open my arm. If I use what I talked about and I slide my pie, I've sacrificed nothing. I'm fighting, I'm in my same stance, I haven't changed. I can still throw the other leg if I want, but he can feel me pointing right at that arm and shoulder. That's enough to make most people move. You want to put a little more into it, do it quicker. This hip is where it's coming from. The shot's coming up from the ground. This is your threat. This is not a threat. This is not a good shot. This is. If I turn my hip and I point it in, you bet people will move. Because that's the first thing that happens when I throw a shot, is that hip kicks. They see that hip start, they don't want nothing to do with it.
What you're saying, you're not teaching somebody about feints?
Yes.
And the difference, what I call an active and a passive feint. This is active. This is passive. You're not actually attacking him, but you're making him feel threatened somehow. Somebody's not even sure how.
Yes.
So it's passive. It's not costing you any energy. You're making them feel uncomfortable somehow.
That's a good description of it. It's exactly right. It's a passive threat. An active one is also totally fine, but be careful. You don't want to cross the line into committing into something that you're not ready to do. A common one for me is to tilt. Once this weapon tilts offline, you can't do anything else. If I want a cross shot, it has to come back again. Once I tilt for this leg, this looks like a good threat. It is, but that's all it's going to be is a leg. It's going to be something else. I have to bring it back up again. This, you have to really worry about because I can now go anywhere with this. Okay. Now, since the hip starts the shot, you can do an active one, what I would call an active one, which is where you actually start the shot. But you'll notice I've pushed the hip and I've lined the weapon up, but I haven't tilted it offline. I've actually kept it connected with my shoulder. I can still throw any shot. And in fact, this is usually the first part of the shot. Because I want them to go one direction, and I'm going to go the other, but they're fast enough that I can't do something and then do the whole thing, so I'm doing part of it with it. Bang. Does that make sense? Seeing blank faces? Did not make any sense?
No, I guess it did.
Try it a little different way.
Take your hip now with you.
Yes, yes. When you throw a proper shot, which he was talking about in his class, it's coming up from the ground. If you're throwing with your arm, none of this is going to make any sense because you're doing it all the hard way. I don't do things the hard way. Do them the easy way. So this hip starts a shot. Typically, the shot pushes the hip. You can see it all coiling up, and then the weapon releases. Basically, that's how you throw a shot. The hip pushes, this coils, pow. Okay? I can coil and release in a different direction if I don't cock at the same time. If I do any kind of a cock, I sacrifice other things. Okay? The purpose of those, all those fakes and stuff like that, is to make the other person use their paw. Putting their fork down, so to speak. Okay? When you do these things, you're doing them for a purpose. Okay? You're doing it to make them open up. You're doing it to make them commit their weapon to a thing. Maybe they're a person who counter shoots. You're making them throw. Somebody who throws when you want them to throw, that's great, because you know the next half a second, they have no weapon. They can't block with it. They can't throw anywhere else because they already threw. That's what the purpose of all these are. Okay? I'm not going to get into too much what you're going to get out of this because that's the infinite part. Every opponent's going to be different. So you need to test them. But that's what you should be aware of. So when you're using this, look for how you're using it, look for how your opponent's using it, try to gain information and not give away anything. Eventually, you learn to gain information and give false information, which is what I typically do. Okay? My fakes are typically false. Somebody said once, if you can see me swinging, I'm probably not going to hit you. Not exactly sure what they meant by that. Okay, does that make sense? Ask me questions.
Okay.
Yes.
You were mentioning when the building, specifically when you're fighting the guard, you push the hips back so you aim up.
Yes.
Obviously, that's not going to be effective in my case.
Correct.
Also, leaning forward is not really a good
Correct.
instinct for me. So is it just like a shot down is what?
If you can, sitting down is nice because it still keeps you upright. The other beauty of it is when you sink, the area we have to, this is like pitching. You'll see that for anybody who's learned baseball, they tell you when you stand, they want you low. The reason is the legal area is ours. It's from the knee up. And the smaller this gets, our shields don't change in size. But if I compress, not only do I get all the things I talked about, I have technically a bigger shield. All my target areas get smaller. So if you can sink down, that will allow you to do that. You still have the ability to rise just a little and put things down somebody's back. But if you stand up, then that's all you have. You sit down, you have the others. That's the beauty of this. This 90-degree thing is important when you get from here up. So you need to tilt to get higher. Think about it when you're on your knees. Keep shifting because my left hand is sorry. When I fight on my knees, my body will take two positions. And again, what's happening here is my pie has gotten smaller because I can't extend it as much with my hips. I will do this, because now I can push my pie forward and back, whatever leg's up. Some of my little tricks, if you want to see some of my tells, I will sometimes do this, put the foot off to the side. This allows me, it decreases my ability to move the pie forward, but it increases my ability to slide it side to side. So now I can threaten, I can cut and cut back. I'm still on my knees, it's the same fight. The pie doesn't go away because I'm on my knees. Okay? What does change now is the level of my pie is typically here. Now everybody's a tall opponent. So I will do two things. I tend to sit back a little, so I pull my stomach back a little. This is the equivalent of what we were talking about. Giving the feel that I am farther away than I really am. I'm sitting back here. It draws an opponent in a little bit more because I can't go to him. I want him to come to me. Now, when I correct this, and if I can rise, I can close another foot and a half. If he's closer, he's suddenly deep in my range. The second is, there's a certain point that they cross where they're too close. From here, I can't see them. So I do the opposite. The picture in my head is like trying to bring my shoulders straight down to my hips by pushing my chest and stomach out of the way. So I arch this way, and my shoulders come down. See the angle of my chest? Now I can face up. I don't like to tilt back because I begin to lose power, and quite frankly, my knees will dislocate if I stay here too long. But I can push this way and still have my body behind me. I don't have to hold up my body weight because it's sitting over my hips. Now I can face my opponent. You can't see, you might as well just yield. It's just a matter of time before you're going to get hit. Or you're going to get lucky, and really, how exciting is that to win a fight by luck? So here I can see. Here's my 90 degrees. Now I can still fight.
I just want to mention that character with that technique. You're putting a lot of stress on your lower back. And your core muscles are the only thing that are taking you. If your back is messed up, you set your shoulder blades down over your smaller back, you pop right off. Just be careful. It's valid. If you're not kind of flexible.
Yes, and it's a good rule for anybody who has a particular injury. Here's a good example of this. I'm just going to point this out. I don't expect anybody to be doing this because it actually makes it pretty difficult. Because my knees typically dislocate when I am in this position and fighting, I have worked on no longer fighting from my knees unless it's important. It's already gone. Fight cross-legged. This messes people up, but it's very difficult to get your hit behind the chop. Okay? I'm a smaller target, very low. I can still sit above my hips, so it's harder to hit me, but really, I have this for movement, so now I have very little movement, and it's very difficult. I have to kick my hip hard enough to make it move on the floor to get a shot at it. I can do it, really hard, but this is, like as Grace is talking about, my injury that I'm prone to are my knees. So I'm really left with three choices. Let them dislocate, yield, or learn to fight sitting on the ground. So that apply that to whatever. If anything you try. Sitting low when you're tall is a good example. Bavard's really working on it. He's really working out, so he's gaining some flexibility. There are some I know tall. I know one guy who's my height who can't bend their ankles down. Or those who are heavier, it's difficult. It's difficult enough at my 210 pounds to sit down here. For somebody who's beyond 300 to sit down here, I can't imagine putting another 100 pounds on me and then staying in this position. This is not easy. You either work out for it or you do it for short periods. No reason you shouldn't leave your opponent for 3 to 5 seconds anyway. Okay? More questions? Okay? This was the easy part. Okay? This is the easy part. Again, I'm going to repeat it to make it feel like one thing. Think about that pie. Think about your opponents. Think about how you can change it in size and shape, and how you can apply it, and then how they're doing it, whether they're even aware of it. Okay? And try that on other people. Now you guys have to do the other 95%. You guys have to go practice and try it. And I guarantee it's not going to work for a little bit, and then you get little glimpses, and then it'll start to work. Right now I'm at the point where if I do it right, I get success. If I do it wrong, I don't. Which tells me it's working. Okay? If you have more questions later, we'll talk to you. Alright? That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Your Grace.